The morning came soft and pale, like it was afraid to wake the town too suddenly. Dust lay untouched on the road, the kind that remembers every footprint. Elias Boone knelt beside the livery fence with his hat in his hands, his knees aching the way they always did before the sun fully rose. A child sat on the ground in front of him, shoulders shaking, face buried in thin arms. The sound of crying was small, almost embarrassed by its own existence. "Don't cry, little one," Elias said, his voice rough but careful, as if it might break if he pressed it too hard. The child lifted his head, and time stopped, those eyes wide, unsure, too old for such a young face, with the same eyes Elias had watched close for the last time 12 winters ago. Same shape, same quiet plea, same fragile strength, pretending not to need anyone. His breath caught in his chest, sharp and sudden. For a heartbeat, he was no longer a man kneeling in dust. He was a father again, holding his daughter Lila's face between his palms, promising her the cold would pass. The child sniffed, wiping his nose with his sleeve. "I ain't crying no more," he said like it mattered. Elias nodded, though his hands were trembling. "That's all right," he said. "Crying don't make you weak. Just means you're still here." The boy studied him for a long moment, then stood and ran toward town, boots too big for his feet, hope stitched together with fear. Elias stayed kneeling long after the dust settled, staring at the space where the child had been, his heart pounding like it had been called back to life without permission. Elias Boone was a man the town had learned to look past. He worked the stable, mended tack, shoveled manure, and slept in a narrow room that smelled of hay and old wood. He spoke when spoken to. He bowed his head at church, but never lingered. People knew things about him without knowing him. Knew he'd once had a family, knew he'd lost them, knew he carried that loss like a sentence he agreed with. Some grief made a man holy, has made him invisible. Sheriff Amos Reed nodded to him when their paths crossed, a gesture that meant nothing and everything. No trouble, no kindness, just space. The town liked its stories neat. Widows should mourn quietly. Men should recover or leave. Elias had done neither. The child came back the next day. He didn't cry this time. He stood at the edge of the stable, watching Elias brush a horse with slow, even strokes. The rhythm was steady, calming. Elias didn't ask him to leave. He didn't invite him closer either. He let the boy decide. After a while, Elias handed him the brush. "Gentle," he said. The boy smiled, just a flicker, and copied his movements. Dust rose and fell like breath. The boy hummed something under his breath, a wandering tune that hit Elias square in the chest. It was the same melody he used to hum to Lila when storms rolled in and the walls shook like they might remember fear. "What's your name?" Elias asked, though part of him was afraid of the answer. "Jonah," the boy said. "My mama sews dresses." Elias nodded. He knew of her. Maeve Calder, widow, quiet, the kind of woman the town spoke about with lowered voices and borrowed concern. Respectable, but watched. When Maeve came for Jonah, Elias recognized the careful way she held herself, her back straight, her eyes alert. She thanked him for looking after her son, her voice steady but edged with worry, like gratitude might cost her something. Elias only nodded. Words felt heavy around her, like they might fall wrong if he wasn't careful. Jonah tugged at her hand. "He showed me how to brush," he said. Maeve's gaze flicked to Elias, softened for just a second. "That was kind," she said. Kind. It sounded foreign in his ears. Days passed. Jonah returned often. Sometimes Maeve lingered nearby, mending fabric while pretending not to watch. The town noticed. Whispers began to coil around the edges of things. Questions asked without mouths. Elias felt them settle on his shoulders, familiar as cold. At church, women leaned together when Maeve walked past. Jonah came home once with dirt on his shirt and his jaw set tight. Elias didn't ask what happened. He knelt in front of him and said, "Stand straight." Jonah did. "That's all you need sometimes," Elias said. "Just don't disappear." That night, memories came uninvited. Lila's laugh, the way she used to press her cold hands against his neck, the storm that had taken her while he was gone, chasing wages instead of staying home. He'd returned to a quiet house and a silence that never left him. He'd learned then that loving something didn't make it safe, but it made losing it unbearable. When the dust storm came, it rose fast and angry, swallowing the sky. Jonah didn't come home. Maeve searched the streets, panic sharpening her voice. Some men shrugged. Storms passed. Boys were foolish. Elias didn't wait. He rode out, eyes burning, calling Jonah's name into the wind. He found him near the cottonwoods, curled small against the earth, crying now without shame. Elias dismounted and gathered him close, shielding him with his own body as the storm roared around them. "Don't cry, little one," he whispered again, his voice steady now. Jonah looked up. This time, Elias didn't see a ghost. He saw a future, not a replacement, not an answer, just a child who needed someone to stay. Maeve found them when the storm eased. She didn't speak. She just watched Elias hold her son like it was the most natural thing in the world. The town watched too from a distance. No one said anything. After that, Elias began to take up space again. He sat at tables. He laughed once. Maeve and Jonah shared meals with him, quiet and unspoken, like something fragile being built without plans. And maybe that's how it always works. Not with grand moments or loud forgiveness, just with someone kneeling in the dust, choosing not to turn away. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever carried a loss so long it felt like your name, remember this. Love doesn't ask you to forget your pain. It only asks you to stand gently and stay